So let's talk about the LSU game, though. Sports are pretty simple. You win or you lose. College football has ruled out ties. But Byron Young is a great example of how not reaching the goal, you can still be effective. He has only one sack on the year, but he has 10 quarterback hurries. So those hurries, he would love for them to be sacks, but they affect the game, Amanda. And one of those hurries was on the Hail Mary play against Florida. So that certainly affected the game. So while it's easy to say he doesn't have the sack numbers that you would like, I think when you look at Byron Young, he is one of the better. I'm not going to say one of the best. He's not of the same ilk of BJ Olajari or, of course, Will Anderson at Florida. He's a drop.
Ooh,
Yeah, he's
Will Anderson's at
Will
Alabama.
Anderson of Alabama, excuse me. He's not of that.
Ooh.
He's not of that. He got traded, transfer portal. Will Anderson of Alabama. So he's in that second level, but just because he has just one sack in 4 games doesn't mean he's not a very good player.
I think people need to realize that yes, sacks are great. You love sacks. You love, getting that negative yardage for the other team. However, sacks don't create interceptions. Sacks create maybe fumbles at times, but most times not. Hurrying the quarterback is what creates those interceptions. So his job and the what he's doing may be just as important, if not more important, than getting a sack. If you're hurrying the quarterback, he's going to make a bad decision. He's going to throw the ball either away or he's going to make a bad read and interception. That's important to this game.
Yep, agree. Young's quickness could certainly come into play against LSU. The Tigers' offensive line they're big. They have 4 players that are playing over 320 pounds. They got 2 that tip the scales at over 350. So I would take the quickness over the size in today's game. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if Tennessee stumbles down the stretch, it could be bad news at LSU. In 10 second half possessions this season, Daniels has led LSU to 6 touchdowns and a field goal. Now, you might ask why 10, because he was out for part of the game with an injury. So that's pretty strong. 6 touchdowns and a field goal in 10 possessions. And in the fourth quarter, he's been even better. On drives that began in the fourth quarter, Daniels has led LSU to 4 touchdowns on 4 possessions. Garish saying, "Go Tigers." We shall see. I don't know if that's going to happen. But Daniels certainly is one that it seems like the game, Amanda, and some players are like this, that he kind of has to warm up to the game and he gets better as the game goes on. You could say that's good or bad. Tomato, tomato.
Well, the problem with that is LSU has played Florida State, which ended up being, a loss for them. And they've played what? Southern, New Mexico. They played Auburn. I would put Auburn in in the category of Southern and New Mexico. They played, I mean, Mississippi State's been their one true test besides Florida State. And they were close. I mean, they beat Mississippi State, but that game was closer than it looks. And the way that they struggled against Auburn is a problem.
Yep.
I mean, it's just a problem. So these stats seem good for Daniels, like, oh yeah, look at him, woo. But look at who they've played.
It's kind of like back in the day when Florida would play 2 patsies before Tennessee, and Tennessee would actually play a significant opponent, and you would look at the stats and you would say, what point are these stats? I do think the fact that he's better in the second half says something. And what it says to me, in addition that Tennessee doesn't need to stumble, it says to me that Tennessee needs to come out in the first half, put the pressure on Jaden Daniels, start fast, which I hate when nobody says, let's go out there and start really slow. That would be awesome. So, but if you do put up some points early, you put a little bit of pressure on him. So, Crowd noise. This was, I thought, a great quote. Go to offthehooksports.com. Be sure and hit like and subscribe and share so that we can be a part of your Tennessee and SEC coverage. Crowd noise. Cooper Mays, Tennessee center, said, "Does it affect him?" He goes, "Quote, not me personally. Everybody sits here and argues with me, even in the line, the offensive line. Jerome Carvin will argue with me all the time about talking about how the crowd affects him and stuff." And I was like, I don't think I've ever thought a crowd was really that loud. But it is funny that Cooper mentions that his teammate Jerome Carvin says it's a little loud and this is a little nerve wracking. But Cooper says he just gets tunnel vision, and tunnel vision as a center seems like the perfect type of vision to have.
I mean, yeah, it does. Cooper's right right in front of the quarterback too, so the crowd noise maybe doesn't affect him as much considering the quarterback's right here. So, I think the crowd noise, the only like the real reason it affects people is because they can't hear. They can't hear what the quarterback's saying. They can't hear what's going on because the crowd is so loud. But that makes sense that it wouldn't bother Cooper considering where he is.
Yeah, it's just Cooper. If you haven't had an opportunity to watch any of the videos with Cooper, I've stole one of his phrases, and that is, "I am where my feet are." In other words, you're not thinking about yesterday, you're not thinking about tomorrow. Do the best you can right there. And I've stolen that phrase from him. Here he is, what, a 21-year-old, and I'm 38. And excuse me.
Yeah.
And I've
Mhm.
I've stole that phrase from him. "I am where my feet are." That's just Cooper. And if you haven't watched any of those videos, the Ball Report, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, City Heat and Air. Go to cityheatandair.com. Over 50 years of integrity with City Heating and Air Conditioning. If you haven't seen any of those videos, you will just love Cooper's demeanor. I mean, it's just so relaxing. Maybe refreshing would be a better word.